instead of me being grumpy about people sending me stuff, someone's going to do it for me, right? And it's going to be my AI agent. I think founders at the moment just need to engage the tools but take a step back. ChatGPT will not do your cash flow analysis for your business. It won't work it out right now. 2 years time it'll probably work it out, but right now it won't do it.
Our relationship with technology is evolving rapidly. As AI is changing businesses and reshape our world, what does the future hold? Welcome everyone to another episode of AI Business Transformation. I'm Michael Coppola, and today we have David Murray-Hundley, CEO of Perry Venture. David, welcome.
Nice to meet you, Michael, and nice to meet everyone who's watching this.
Thanks, David. Really a pleasure to speaking with you and to going into. We are gonna explore how AI is impacting on business transformation from the investor perspective, also on different lesson on how building companies. So really excited to go into the discussion. David, you are famously known as the grumpy entrepreneur. So what's behind that?
I get asked this question a lot. So my darling wife. It took me a long time to find a wife, right? In that journey, she in 2012, I had to write a book and I had to come up with some nickname, and she called me the grumpy entrepreneur. And she said, because you're really grumpy with a lot of companies and you're just very matter of fact. What it transpires into is I'm just look, I never want to upset anyone, but I'm very point blank about my comments. I don't hide behind stuff, so I guess that's why I've got the name. So yeah, it's one of those things. I don't feel proud of it, but I feel it's kind of needed in the startup world.
So you are harsh with the performance, with the kind of going into really.
Yeah, there's a lot of bullshit, right? Sorry, excuse me for my language, but there's a lot of BS in the startup world. So I see it every day, and you just get a bit. As you get older, I mean, as we discussed earlier, you're 39. I mean, I'm way older than that. It's you get a bit more questionable about stuff. When you're in your 20s, it's all lovely, but then you get a bit older and go, Jesus, like people just stop. Yeah, like literally, don't waste your time. Which is where I kind of get to. So yeah, I'm a little bit point blank. I mean it in the nicest way when I'm a bit critical with people, but it's not always taken that way, and I'm very blunt. I am who I am. I'm too old now.
Yeah,
to change it, so.
I understand your view. And so what do you think, because we are on this topic, so what are you looking into a startup on a business? How do you find it investable? So what are your thesis in the side?
Yeah. So it hasn't really changed. So I know we were going to talk about AI a lot, but I did AI in 1990s when no one even knew what it was. So it hasn't really changed it for me. It's still investment side or even advisory side or support side is about the founder, how grounded they are. Okay, so I work in a world. Bear in mind, I was a techie originally. Now this VC thing, which is, I still don't think I deserve. Imposter syndrome on that. But there is this people. I always describe it as I'm a racing guy. So if you have Formula One, right, and you turn up to the season and you think you've won the championship at the first race, there's a lot of founders who think they've already won the championship, but they haven't even done the first race. And so for me, it's a lot about the founders, how grounded they are, how decent they are, no airs and graces. It's always about reality. And I think we're going through a stage with startups, with AI particularly, where there's a lot of, how to describe it? It's become really fake. And it's probably the first time I've seen it in 25 years where it's become really fake. Okay, because people are using AI, and we're going to have this. I know we're going to have this question about it, but they're using it to transform themselves forward. But they're They don't understand what they're actually doing. So it's a weird thing at the moment because I think we're going. I liken it to 1997. We're doing .com boom, and there was these people who did websites. Websites now is like a normal thing, right? Yeah, you go on Wix or whatever. But at the time, people would write HTML or go and write some JavaScript on, you know, a commerce site or whatever in the 90s. I think AI is the same thing. I think AI is almost like HTML, like with websites. Like suddenly everyone's doing AI. So I remember back when we had Commerce One, everyone was a website developer, and I'm like, really? So I think just history, long history, obviously 25 years, 26 years. Yeah, I think that's what we're going through at the moment.
So basically, you're saying we had to go back to fundamental. So we really understand how to capture the value, how to focus on really creating some valuable product for customer. This is what you're saying. No people that just are building product. Um, it,
Yeah, I don't even know it's so much that. I think there's a bandwagon. So tech world is renowned for, gosh, in the 90s it was always about being websites. Then it became hosting, which is effectively cloud. Yeah, we go through it, right? AI at the moment, every investment document I get through, ironically, I'm like, these people didn't even know what AI was. It was Terminator movie in the 80s. That was AI, and Microsoft Office One because it would decide what you were supposed to spell or whatever with Microsoft Access. I think what's happening now is everyone's jumped on the bandwagon. So AI, it was VR. Imagine VR 2 years ago. What was everyone doing? They were doing VR, right? It was all VR. It was all this, and that's all gone, sort of thing, and AR. Look, as a founder, just have a proposition that works, right? That investors can invest in and actually feel like they're going to get return on. But you know, I was writing some notes earlier, and I was thinking, what do I say that's not what everyone else says? And I went, AI is, if you look at startups at the moment, it's easier to build a startup with AI, right? It's solved a few problems, but then as someone who sees, I think, I probably look at 50 decks a day in the weekdays, not the weekends. And I'm going, there are people sending me decks that they do a cash flow analysis, for example, cash flow, right? Which is, fundamental to a business. And they've used ChatGPT or they've used something else, and it's just rubbish. ChatGPT will not do your cash flow analysis for your business. It won't work it out right now. 2 years' time, it'll probably work it out, but right now it won't do it. So I think there's a lot of laziness at the moment. And I actually put a thing on LinkedIn about 2 weeks ago. So we all know that if you use ChatGPT, it puts those dashes in your conversation, right? I get emails from founders who want $2 million and they use ChatGPT to respond to me
mm,
for $2 million.
at least take the
like,
time to.
like, well, here's my view on $2 million. How long would it take to earn $2 million, right? And then it'll take years, right? Or a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or whatever. People actually have the audacity to go, I'm going to reply to David Murray-Hundley, who's a smart guy, I'm not stupid, and they actually use ChatGPT to reply to me.
Yeah.
That's the world we're in at the moment. It's quite
So
scary. And
is
I think there's a
you're saying we should value more the human connection, so making sure that we
100%.
are no, just automating, because yeah, of course we are human beings. We want to be treated as we respect to be, right? So
Well, yeah, Michael. And also, if I'm going to put, sorry, it's my switch off. If I'm going to put $1 million in a company, I do it because of the person, right? Not because of their ChatGPT or whatever AI tool they're using. So it's a really weird one. I'm going, and one of the other things I'm seeing at the moment as well, like, suddenly ChatGPT's become a lawyer for term sheets and safe agreements, which is scary. So I get sent a lot of agreements. Very proud founders going, "Oh, I've got this safe agreement," and I'm like, "Do you know how bad this is long term in investment wise? If you're as a founder, like you're going to get screwed on there, you're going to get screwed on preferences and whatever." So yeah, we're in a weird moment where we've got these amazing tools, and don't get me wrong, there's some amazing stuff, right, that we can do. That I was talking to someone this morning in Australia, a company that I look after. And, I was saying, software developers, who really needs software developers, right, in 2 years' time? Because you can write code at the moment. It's not particularly correct, but it saves a load of time, load of money. You can, if you're a smart, architect around it, you can govern the stuff that's wrong. Yeah, so we are in a good phase, but we just got to be smart. And I think there's a lot of founders who are being really lazy, frankly, really lazy. And I get decks that are prepared by some tool, and like you don't even know what you've put in your deck. Jesus.
Yeah,
It's-
so I think
yeah.
you are outlining an issue into an alignment probably that is between the AI and your personal first understanding or value. So I think probably we should also, I really believe into that the AI is really bringing huge value into us, but as you are outlining also, there is an issue into how we are communicating or how are we using these tools. So how can we better align this system for our personal use or business use, right? So do we understand the outcome of this system, and are they perfectly aligned with our business mission, etc., etc.? I think that is the main.
Right now in 2025, let's hope in 10 years' time someone looks at this video in 10 years' time, right? Is 2025, there is no AI that's going to tell you how to exit your business. There's no AI that's going to be the best chairman in your company, right? That's where we are at the moment, right? 3 years' time, that will probably change, I sense. I've got a company, Ricardo runs Swap, which is a bartering company. So people do yachts against cars and villas and stuff. He's writing stuff at the moment, decision wise, that is, it is probably 3 years ahead of time, right? But it has to wait 3 years for the AI to catch up. And that's always been the way, right? Microsoft kind of launched Microsoft Office One. They were thinking about in 1996 about that stuff. That's a long time ago. That's 30 years ago. It's crazy. Look, 30 years on from now, we're all going like, "Oh, do you remember when we were having a conversation about this, that, and the other?" I think where founders at the moment need to get a bit smarter is, I've always said this, whether it was AI or whatever, know your numbers, right? So people invest because of people. People invest because people know their numbers and stuff. They want to get a return on their business and their investment. I think founders at the moment just need to engage the tools, but take a step back and go, do I really understand what I'm sending out there? Right. So I think 70%, I'm going to go for it, it's controversial. 70% of the decks I see, no one actually understands what they've sent out. That's scary. Whereas 3 years ago, I'd go probably 30% didn't realize what they were sending out. And I think the number's gone up, and that worries me a lot. And it also worries me the deal's being done because there's angel investors out there that are doing investments based on really bad documents because they know they'll be all right in the long term. That's not a good investment, right? That's just, you're taking advantage. So it's interesting times. We're definitely in a switch around.
So and what catch you in a good pitch deck? So what is really catch your attention when you are looking at?
My attention. So founders who put their own money in, right? Amazing. That's a rare thing. Even if it's like they've got their credit card with $3,000 and they've gone, I've maxed out my credit card. I have respect for that because that $3,000
So
is really important to them. So
would you
that's
mention it then in a pitch deck? because normally is normal, yeah, in a pre-seed pitch deck, you don't say, I invested $50,000 to build this business as a founder.
Why not?
No,
Why
this
not?
is what I'm saying. We normally,
But like
yeah,
they should.
yeah, okay.
They should. Yeah. So they all read the wrong websites and think, when Y Combinator or Seed Camp or whatever put these things up going, this is what you should do. They're absolutely incorrect, right? I love founders that have risked real money. Okay. And real money could be their credit cards. Real money could be, they left their job and decided to do a startup, which is, crazy. But it's interesting that I will share with you. I have probably sent the same email today. Gosh, let's say 10 times, right? And I have the same questions, which are I will share with you. It'll be real time. Most founders completely forget to do the following. They never talk about the runway of their business,
Sorry,
right?
sorry, David.
So as an investor, the runway of their business, right? So whether, has it got 2 months, has it got 10 months or whatever, they never talk about that. They never talk about the investment to date, which can include other investors. They never do cash flow. They never talk about the deal for the investor. So I see so many decks that come across. They go, we want 2 million on a safe round. They never talk about what the cap is on the safe round. They never talk about what the equity level is and if got a discount or whatever. And they never say what they've actually put in. And if you looked at my investment portfolio for the last 12 months, all those people I've invested in have put real money of their own money in. And it could be between $2,000 to $50,000, $60,000, right? But it's really important. Like, that's proper risk. Not someone sitting there going, well, I've got the next Meta or LinkedIn or Google or whatever. Smart investors don't care about that stuff, right? So.
And you have invested in really successful startup like Revolut, Impossible Food, and what trait have you noticed in this really successful company comparing to the rest?
Lucky. So I'm not that smart, by the way. Lucky, definitely lucky on a few things. You just get a sense for. So Revolut, let's take Revolut, right? So I was first round on Revolut. If you'd asked me 4 years ago, I would have told you that I never thought I was going to return on that business. That's being truthful. You look at Rivian, we were in on that. We did pre-IPO sale, so primary, secondary. I think it's about your gut feeling, right? And bear in mind, Michael, I'm not a VC, right? I'm a developer. I'm a software developer at heart, right? That's what I've done for my whole life, but ended up with a VC firm. You just get good at knowing good deals, and it's a gut feeling, most of it, right? Like, you show me any venture capital firm that doesn't go by gut feeling or by politics, or
Sorry.
they happen to know someone, or it looks similar to another business, right? So it's very much like that. So I feel there's no, how do I know? I don't know, Michael. To answer that question, like, I don't honestly know. I don't know how to tell you that. When Rivian, I remember I got asked by a friend on Wall Street about putting some money in Rivian way, like, early, and I went, who wants electric pickups? I still remember having that conversation, and he was like, yeah, but David, you need to do this. And I was like, okay. Commerce One, like, I look back at Commerce One in my 20s, everyone was like, it's going to be the company. I can tell you now, the day before we IPO'd Commerce One in July 1999, I hadn't even signed my paperwork. So, you do stuff because you love it. You do stuff because you love the people. There are some people who are really smart at it. I'm not very smart at it. I just got lucky.
Yeah, it seems famously really difficult to distinguish, a unicorn when it starts, right? I mean, is famously known, even in the venture capital space, they have that 1% possibility of
Well, look at Revolut, right? So Revolut, they obviously a UK unicorn, right? They went to New York when they were trying to build. This is what 9 years ago. They were trying to build their business up in the US, and someone in New York sat and went, "Well, we've got 1,000 of you, right? Because a unicorn in the UK is not a unicorn in the US, right? So it's interesting." And and we all know as well, there's companies that IPO. Look at you look at Rivian, right? So they IPO'd. Most investors got out before the IPO. That's the way of the game. And then what did the share price do? It went down, right? So it's a game. And what I really love I do at the moment is I work with pre-seed, seed, early stage stuff, just decent people. Right? So if I look at you went on my LinkedIn right now, I'm working with decent founders, and you know what? Are we guaranteed anything? No, but they will do something at some point, which is my
Mhm.
view on them as well. And it's kind of been my view on a lot of businesses for like the last 15 years, right? Um, you're going to be an investor for 10 years. So do they listen to you? Are they decent? Are they not going to quit? Yeah, it's a great way to be. So very lucky in that
Yeah, there is a
respect.
lot of the personal side as well, right? So you want someone that enjoy working with, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You want to have a weekly phone call with them, and they're not an idiot. So it's
yeah, yeah,
it's nice. No, but it sounds
yes,
really random. But I could start working a long time ago, and I had a call Australia this morning. Renault, biggest Porsche reseller in Australia. It's not even tech, but Tom, awesome guy, like awesome guy, built a business, built a real business, made real money with it. And it's a joy to have a conversation with him. And I've got Ricardo, who's doing swap, and again, just awesome. Just there's those once a week calls are nice to have, and I'd rather support those than people who think they're Reid Hoffman, because there's only one Reid Hoffman. So
And David, at which stage have you invested in Revolut?
I was first
So
first stage.
seed or pre-seed?
Yeah. So I was pre crowdfunding. Yeah, all that stuff long
Wow,
time ago.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, so level 39, I was part of level 39, and which was the accelerator at Canary Wharf, where Revolut were based. Yeah, a long time
Wow,
ago. Yeah,
incredible. And so you are also you are based between US and UK, right?
yeah. So UK is home. Oxfordshire is home because obviously family. But yeah, I recognised a couple of years ago that I needed to do a bit more US stuff. Have an office in New York, one in Menlo Park in California. Obviously, I did a lot of time in California. I spent most of my career in the US anyway. Yeah, the UK companies, it's interesting. The US attitude is let's go for it. Let's build companies. Who cares about risk? UK is all about risk. So if you look at my client base at the moment, it's probably 70% US at the moment. There's Australia in there. God forbid it, I'm saying it, but Israel, Switzerland. I've only got one UK client at the moment because UK is just so risk
Mm.
adverse.
Can you tell me a little bit more the differences between UK and US? As also personally, I am now understanding a little bit more about the differences, but I also want to understand what the opportunity are for the US market. If I am a UK based company, can
Okay.
I think about on maybe US fundraising, having a UK entity, or how do you manage this kind of structure?
So we're definitely in a different world. So the last 12 months. So we took 12 months. So let's take, 2024. We're in May 2024, right? Everyone was sensing Trump would come back to, his role. I heard a lot of people in the US, East Coast and West Coast, that probably didn't support him first time round, that wanted him to come into power. So that was interesting that, we went from that transition. I think there was a lot of people in November, because obviously he came into power in January. There was a lot of people in November that thought that the investment side would change a lot. Interestingly, and I'm going to say this: the first business book I ever read when I was 18 was Trump's Art of the Deal book, which is my first business book I ever read. So I'm a bit of a fan. I don't agree with him, but I'm a bit of a fan, sort of thing, because he kind of got me through a lot of things. Yeah, the US investment community is quite nervous at the moment, right? So there was a nervous thing about 3 months ago about people investing outside of the US. It's now become inside the US. Obviously, he wants billionaires. He's doing the opposite to the UK, which I kind of like. But there is a nervous tension about what happens next. And I think so. We're seeing a lot of that at the moment. So I've seen 4 deals in the last month and a half. US investors pull out of the deal because they're nervous about what's going to happen. UK is UK's always been different to the US because British people in general are very risk adverse, right? Yeah, it's not a US thing, but the British are very risk adverse. So we've always had that, but then we had, and I'm getting very political, we had a change of government last year. EIS rules with HMRC have got way harder for investors as well, angel investors, who want to put money in. So we're in a weird climate at the moment that, if I take Canada as well, I've got companies in Canada that are good revenue earning companies, can't raise any money in the current climate at the moment because US people won't put investment in. Canada is also risk adverse as well. So it's a weird period. I think we're going to be in a weird period for at least 12 months and see what happens. I don't know. It's uncharted territory, I would say.
And for someone that is building a startup, would you advise them to build a US entity if the product is well for the market?
Again, interesting point. So I had 3 UK companies end of last year that were UK limited companies, couldn't get the HMRC EIS approval, like it was taking 6 months to do. So they lost angel investment. So they ended up doing a Delaware C Corp to get through that. So there is still, if you look at valuations, obviously the US love safe agreements. So we're in a weird world where safe agreements, definitely pump up the valuation, but there's no risk in it technically, but there is risk. I've watched companies in Dubai, Saudi, UK just go right, and Hungary just go like we're just going to do a US company. So it's interesting. It costs a bit more money to set up in the US, but there's definitely an appetite, and I think US has always been, if you're a US company, then we're far more interested in investment than we are, something across the pond. But it's weird. It's a weird time. I don't think the startup world has ever had what's going on at the moment. .com boom, bust, whatever. Lehman Brothers, when it also, kind of ruined the startup world until 2012. I don't think we've gone through this.
Pretty challenging environment, right?
Yeah, but it means you've got to be smarter, right? So I think it means you can't just assume you send a deck across and it has, this is one of the things I see and it annoys me as well, right? So they go, someone sends a deck across and they put loads of badges on for the companies they work for. The other thing we have at the moment is, founders go, I'm an exited founder. They're not an exited founder. They work for a company that exited. So it's not the same thing. And then you see, we're going to spend your 2 million on this, this, and this. They do a pie chart. That doesn't cut it. The market is tough at the moment, right? Even in the US, it's tough. Any person who's listening to this, if they're, thinking DMH isn't full of crap, is you've got to put the detail in there, right? And I go back to my statement about 15 minutes ago and go, how long would it take you to make $2 million? So if it's going to take you X number of years, spend the time now for a week. If you're going to spend 6 months raising money, you either want to spend 6 months raising money and just wasting your time because you go to a networking event and feel important, but you've got to put the detail in. The glory days are gone for the next few years, so it's all about detail. And the detail for investors is they want to see cash flow forecasts, they want to see where their money's going, they want to see governance around the board, around you as a founder. They don't care about how great your product is because no one gives a shit. They want to see how you're going to do a return and how you're going to manage risk. And I think a lot of founders don't know the word risk. They think it's a project management thing. What do project managers do? Risks become issues, right? So they want to know how you're going to manage that stuff. And it's changed. It's really changed. And the ones who I speak to, a lot of founders that won't ever raise money. They waste their own personal funds on it. They waste time, and time's precious. We're not, we're probably where in 2000, 2001, when the dot-com bubble burst, that's probably where we are at the moment, just in a different way, right? And it happens quicker and it happens in a different way, etc. When someone sends me a deck and goes, I'm, the best person on the planet and my product's amazing, but I actually don't have a product fit, I haven't actually sold anything, no one cares. Literally, that we're not in that market anymore. No one cares. They want to know how they're going to make money. So those guys, I had someone come to me the other day and they said they made £1,000 sale. And I went, respect, well done. And they were like, yeah, but it's only £1,000, David. And I went, it's £1,000. Someone bought your product. You're 1% of the other 99% that don't do any of that ever. So well done them. So I think that's an important thing at the moment. And how you manage your pound. And I think the pound and the dollar is important. Be a slave to the dollar, be a slave to the pound, because that's the stuff that keeps your burn rate down, and you have a runway that's not 12 months, 17 months.
Yeah, I completely agree. From my personal perspective, I would like to add one point is identifying, as you said, where are we gonna spend the money? Understanding if a founder has the ability to identify the right channel to drive growth through the investment. I think that is incredibly important because as you build a startup, you're going to have many experiments that you had to do before you find the right spot to drive growth. So, and I think this is, I learned it through many different interaction, understanding about different products, studying how to bring a product to market. And if you understand how to optimize, money and where to spend I think is an essential point, because otherwise you're going to end up, putting in many different buckets and you are not going to see effective growth. Right.
If I was a founder right now of an early stage company, I would stop reading the headlines, right? So I can imagine founders go on LinkedIn every day. And what's LinkedIn? LinkedIn looks like rubbish at the moment, right? It's just noise, right? And everyone's an expert as well, right? So these poor founders sit on LinkedIn and go, what advice do I take? Because it's constant. It's just constant noise, right? And they almost need to stop reading that. In fact, they actually should come off social media and just build a business, right? Because that's what we did in the 90s. We didn't have LinkedIn and that. And, I look back at me and go, if I'd seen all that stuff when I was in my 20s or my 30s or 40s or 50s with my first business, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So I think there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of don't believe the headlines, because I can tell you now, those people who say their business is amazing then ring me a week later and go, they've got no runway, they need money, they're going bust. So, all right, there's a lot of arrogance and bullshit. I think they just need to lock in where they are, who they want to be, and don't care about the world, right? Just be them. Okay. And I think we've got to the point where it's almost like Instagram with startups. It's like, fake photos and that stuff People like me, investors, we see through it, right? So we just go, it's all bollock. And I think the other problem as well is there's a lot of open VC, which is Steph, who's great business he's done, and he's trying to do the right thing. And it's always people like exited founder and that, right? And so someone like me walks along and goes, well, you're exited founder. Okay, awesome. And you actually put 8 figures on your thing. Wow, awesome. How much have you invested in the business? Well, I haven't done anything. Well, you didn't actually exit then, did you? Because you would have, yeah. And that's, yeah, it's there's a weird thing at the moment where people, and I've got, they're not just the 20-year-olds. I know 40, 50-year-olds that do it. And they go, I exited a business. No, they worked for a business that exited. They didn't actually build
normally
it. And that's
who want to show up are the one that at the end didn't do it, because probably someone that did it will never put it as a headline. I mean, would you?
There you
I
go.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, and also those founders that are humble are amazing founders. They're amazing. Right. So you kind of go, I'm going to invest some money. They might not do it, but they are going to do it at some point. So they're the amazing ones. Yeah, the ones who send me an email going, yeah, they're not. Yeah, we're in a weird dynamic at the moment. I think the startup world is in a bit of a noise era, Instagram era, etc. And people like me are, too grumpy and boring and etc. Which is fine because my life's good. But we see straight through it. I'm guessing that doesn't happen all the time. It just, I think there's some great founders out there that are just good. And the ones who make money actually make real money, real revenue. I don't care how big or small it is. They're awesome. They're the ones you want, right? Because most don't even get that far.
And David, you have been working for many different companies, and you have also been for long into this business. You have been seeing market crash, different downturn. So what advice would you give to founders that are navigating this market? Because I think it's really challenging as well, navigating downturn, right? How would you approach that?
Yeah, so my what would I say? If you get through a downturn, you're probably going to survive the rest of your journey, right? So if you look at history with tech startups, right? So dot-com boom, everyone had a startup, bubble burst. Suddenly, I talked to people and they weren't doing startups anymore. They had a normal job. So I think if you're, fail quickly as a founder, right? So sometimes timing is everything, right? And we've all done it. We've all had amazing businesses and then it just didn't work in the timing. So you have to learn how to fail quickly. The downturn is your opportunity because the good investors will be there, not the rubbish investors, right? And at the end of the day, I was talking to someone this morning about this. I was going, every shareholder is important, right? So you can have a shareholder who puts $10,000 in your company, and someone goes, "Well, it's $10,000." I'm like, "Well, it's still more than you've done," but that $10,000 investor probably knows someone who can put 3 million in your business at some point in your journey, probably later stage, right? So as a founder, just be honest. And I think there's still too much smoke and mirrors. And the founders that are honest, really honest, like, they talk about the gaps in their business, the gaps in them as an individual, they're bored, they haven't got a board, they talk about all the gaps. They're the ones that we all go, yeah, invest in them because they're solid, right? And they will be in 10 years' time before the next crash will be fine. It's the ones who still think it's 2020 or 1999, 2000. It's those ones that you go, you're probably already done. So if I was, just be honest. Just be honest. You don't need. I get really upset when a 22-year-old tries to big themselves up. I'm like, you're 22. It's okay that you don't have the experience. It's all right. It's okay. You don't need to tell me that you worked for Meta, but you've put it on your thing. Couldn't give a shit, right? I want really honest people, because when I was 22, yeah, I worked for Chase and I was doing my first startup, but I didn't do very well at it. So it's okay. It's okay to be 50 years old or 60 years old and go, I work for these companies and I'm doing my first company. They've got experience. Just think honesty is amazing. And what I see at the moment is I get a lot of decks, a lot of emails, and not very honest. Honest is good. And you see it when you interview people, right? There's advisors, mentors, investors who aren't very honest, right? I'm very open book about my life because I couldn't care what people think. But just be honest. That would be honestly that would be my best advice for any founder. Just be
Yeah.
you. If people don't take you for who you are, then they're probably not the right investor.
Thanks, David. I want to talk about AI and understanding if you have in mind some emerging trend into business model that you think will shape industry in the next 5-10 years.
Wow, gosh. I think risk management, whether it's on startups, whether it's on investment funds and that, I think AI is going to definitely influence that massively. I think the legal world, let's face it, like if you take British law, for example, British law was founded on church legal stuff hundreds of years ago, right? I think AI is going to definitely have an influence on that. Investment from VC point of view, I think it's going to change it. I think 2 years' time we're going to be having very different discussions about, does anyone pitch anymore? So I almost have a view that everyone stops pitching for investment, which is right out there. But I have definitely a view that will change. I think there'll be a very different model about. I don't think founders will be sending decks. I think it'll be done in a very different way. Because let's face it, sending a deck to someone is a bit 1990s. If that was 35 years ago, right? So I think it's a very different model.
I will send you my AI agent, basically. You will have.
Well, somewhat, yeah. There's a bit of me just going, instead of me being grumpy about people sending me stuff, someone's going to do it for me, right? And it's going to be my AI agent. There's going to be a DMH, right? So when I retire in a few years, there's going to be DMH, the grumpy entrepreneur agent, that's going to be as annoying as I already am. So, and more direct. So yeah, it will. And I'm going to say it now. In a couple of years' time, there will be a version of me going, oh, bugger off, sort of things. So yeah, I think that's going to happen. I think finance is interesting for me as well. So I look at the finance model, the CFO model, right? And I go, if you look at Microsoft Copilot, they've done a very good job with the Sophie, I think it's Sophia or Sophie it's called, model, where they've taken functions from basic bookkeeping and whatever, and they've done a great job. So I go, gosh, 2 years' time, do I need bookkeeping? Possibly not, right? I need one person out of 5 people. I just need the one person to do a human clarity on it. Legal, I think, is heading slightly the same way as well. Probably not very complex commercial law, but I think that's going to happen. Coding, let's look at coding, right? I've got a friend of mine. He's a great software developer. He's about to retire. He's 55. He's literally retiring. I said to him, would you still be a software developer today? And he went, no, because I think we're done. So he thinks in 2 years, he's like, David, we're just almost project managers on coding, right? That's very interesting for me. I think, we spent years as a chairman, CEO of a company. I spent years paying for developers to tell me that, the world is great. I think that's sort of done. I think we're a few years, that's definitely, that model is going to change. But on the other side of AI as well, right? we need to manage it. And, I still haven't published the book, which I've been writing for 15 years about Will Computers Ever Love, which is actually what it's titled. I think, there's a lot of responsibility we need to do. It's going to be interesting. I think it's exciting, right? Like, my daughter a week ago, she was 10 years old. She's just turned 11, but she was 10. She published a song on Apple Music and Amazon, right? And I'm like, you can do that at the age of 10,
Wow. Yes.
right? And it's back in my day, we'd have had producers and whatever trying to mix it and that. And don't get me wrong, and I mixed it, so it wasn't great. AI is allowing us to do stuff that, so I think for young people, amazing, astonishing, right? It's a bit like me when I was 9 years old and 10, my dad got me into coding when no one did it, and I published my first game, which was number 2 in the charts, not my number 1. But it's a different. I think it's amazing. Like it's going to be great. We're just how we manage it, and I think as a founder, I was talking to a company this week about marketing, and they were saying, well, marketing's really easy with AI. I'm like, no, it's not, because marketing's still crap with AI. So you still need people to do it. But yeah, we'll see what we get. It's not going to be my. I'll be living in Monaco with my wife, and my children will be grown up. So I'm not sure I care, maybe, but it's interesting. I look at my daughters and go, wow, what's their world going to be with technology and AI, right? It's a real thing now. So yeah, interesting. But don't be lazy, founders.
Yeah, it's really interesting also to think about the generation that comes. They are going to have, they grow up with knowing that machine, they talk to them. So it's the first generation where they actually know that the interaction with machine is completely different from us. So it's incredibly, changing the way how we interact with machine. And really interesting how is disrupting many industry. So we are really looking forward to see the evolution. Also, we had to talk about different risk for society, but also we think that there are more the opportunity than the risk, of course.
Well, I'll give you an example. So I was born in 1974, so I'm an old man, right? So when I was 8 years old, I watched War Games, the movie, and I wanted to hack the Pentagon. That's why I got into tech, right? So my dad at the time, he bought me a BBC Micro. So anyone who knows that era, that was the computer to have. And the first thing I ever typed in my BBC Micro on Christmas Day was, "Are you real?" This is a true story, right? It's BBC Basic, so it came up with mistake or syntax error or whatever. The ironic thing is, if my daughter did that today, so my Georgie, she's 8 years old today, so she's a year before or whatever, ChatGPT would go, the reason why it's real. That's the different world we live in. I think it's amazing. I think, back at that time, my dad recognized it, and that's why I've ended up doing what I've done in the world. But I look at kids and go, oh my God, you've never pressed a button on a phone. You've just known, you've had a phone from 6 years old, and it's been an iPhone or whatever. It's as you said, AI is it's their friend almost. It's going to become that way, right? And I think it's exciting but scary. But then I guess it was scary in the 80s, right? And internet and the web was scary, and it's become the Wild West. So we all go through and our grandparents would have done something about tech being scary as well. But it's exciting. We just need to manage it the right way, right? And I think as long as we do that, and my biggest scare for the generation right now is social interaction, right? So we're chatting. There's not many people that chat anymore, and that scares me. And if I looked at anything, I'd go. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I remember a time that you used to go out to date someone. Now you just go on an app to date someone, and it's all that stuff that slightly concerns me that no one's interacting.
Yes,
but that's me because I'm an old man. So,
David, was a great conversation. Thank you very much, really, for your contribution to AI business transformation. I would like if you can mention also, you have been writing a couple of books, right? And like the startup rules, they're out there. So
Yeah.
can you share where we can find this book?
Yeah, so they're all free because I never wanted to charge anyone for a book because my grammar's appalling. But yeah, they're on Google Books, they're on Amazon free, they're everywhere free. So wait for the book that I'm about to publish, which is actually for my daughters, but it's about my history. That's probably more useful for founders. Yeah, how to make it, lose it, make it again, stuff. But yeah, books are weird, right? So yeah, we all think they're important, but they're not important.
No, I'm a good reader, so I'm looking forward for the book. Yeah, please share with me. Also, we will share on our channel. We're happy to share it when it's out. So David, thank you very much for your time. And if you have any other final thought for founders, entrepreneur, please share. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to leave it with this. Firstly, Michael, thank you. I'm sure I broke script a little bit, but founders, just be you. Just be you. Founders, be yourself. Be who you are. Don't be who you think people think you have to be. Just be who you are, because when it goes well, you'll forget who you are, and that's when it all goes wrong. So just stay true to yourself. And I know it sounds like a parent thing to say, but I'm a parent and I give a shit about the world. So just be who you are. That's my advice.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, David. And hopefully we can catch up in 6 months, a year, see how AI is.
Well, a few years, because we're going to revert back to this, right? So
hopefully we're going to still real, and you're not going to send out your AI agent.
Well, I might do. Or I send my daughter, my eldest daughter, Harriet. So she's way smarter than me anyway. So.
Thanks, David. Hi there. Welcome to my channel. I'm Michael Coppola. I'm excited to have you here. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Together, let's explore the incredible potential of entrepreneurship, business innovation, and technology to take your ventures to the next level.